Welcome to Once Upon a Dream. Here, the noise of the world fades into starlight, and forgotten dreams drift softly through the dark. Close your eyes, breathe slow, and let the quiet carry you into a realm between sleep and memory. Tonight's tale is The Dream Collector. Once upon a dream, in the thin and quiet place between sleep and morning, there was a girl who walked where no one else could walk. No one in the waking world knew her name. No one, when they opened their eyes in the morning and stretched and tried to remember their dreams, could recall her face. And yet almost every night of their lives she had been there, passing by the edge of their thoughts like a small light. She moved through their memories and fears and wishes the way moonlight moves across still water, gently, silently, carefully. They called her the Dream Collector. That was not her real name. She did not remember her real name. She did not remember where she had come from, or whether she had once had a mother who sang to her, or hands that once held hers. All she knew was that when the world fell asleep, when windows went soft and quiet, and the houses of every city and every village and every lonely hill were wrapped in night, she would wake, she would take up her lantern, and she would begin. Her lantern was not made of glass, and it did not hold fire. It was silver, round, warm to the touch, and inside it flickered with thousands and thousands of tiny fragments of light. Some were pale blue, like ice catching morning sun. Some were gold, steady and brave. Some shimmered violet, trembling like a heartbeat. Each flicker was a memory of a dream that someone had once had but had forgotten. A dream that had broken or fallen or been stolen by fear. Her job was simple: find what people lost in their sleep and save it before it disappeared forever. Because dreams, like everything else, can die if no one remembers them. Some disappear slowly, like pages fading in the sun. Some go out all at once, like a candle in the wind. And some are taken. That is why she walked. Tonight the sky was dark and endless, but it was not empty. It was full of floating shapes, glowing ribbons of feelings, drifting houses with doors that appeared and vanished, memories not from the past, but from the heart, moments that never happened, but still mattered. Sometimes in this place, someone's happiest day that never came to be could be stronger than all the days they actually lived. That is how dreams work. They do not obey the same lines that daytime uses. She moved through all of it. She wore a simple dress that fell just past her knees, pale and soft, like something stitched out of early morning. Her hair hung loose against her shoulders and swayed when she turned. Her feet made no sound when they touched the ground, mostly because there was no ground. The place between worlds did not need ground. It simply held you up if it believed you belonged there. Tonight, something felt different. On most nights, she was the one seeking. She was the one following trails of dim light, like footprints in mist. She was the one leaning down to cup a falling flicker in her hands and whispering, "It's all right. I've got you." She was always gentle. She had to be. If she held a dream too tightly, it could shatter. If she touched it with too much sadness, it could drown. But tonight, for the first time in a very long time, she heard something call her. It was not loud. It did not shout her name. It was a tug, a pull, a warm ache under her ribs. She stopped walking and, for a moment, just stood and listened. She heard it again, soft from far away, and yet not far at all, like something inside her. She swallowed. She did not know why she felt suddenly cold. Her lantern pulsed once in her hand, then steadied. The fragments of light inside it flickered and hummed like quiet birds. She looked down at it and whispered to them, because she always talked to the dreams she carried. "Did you feel that?" They answered her because dreams always answer if you know how to listen, not in full words, not in full voices, but in feelings, in the way warmth spreads through the palm, in the way tiny lights lean, the way flowers lean toward sunlight. "Yes," they told her quietly. "Go." So she went. The first dream she entered that night belonged to a boy who used to believe he could fly. She could tell instantly. The air itself felt like wanting. The ground, because the dream had bothered to give itself a ground, was white and soft like clouds, stretching forever. The sky was a deep, endless blue, and instead of stars, there were tiny paper airplanes circling above, swooping and diving and laughing to themselves, because paper knows how to be happy when it is folded by someone who believes. Except one. One paper airplane had fallen. It lay in front of her, bent and torn, edges crumpled, wings crushed in. It looked like something that had tried very hard, over and over, and finally given up. She knelt. Her fingers brushed its side. "Hey," she whispered, barely moving her lips. "Did you forget how?" For a moment, nothing, only stillness. Then very quietly, a memory answered her. It wasn't from the paper. It was from the boy. "I used to throw you so high, remember? I used to run down the hallway and pretend the floor was sky. I used to think nothing could touch me. I used to think there was nothing I couldn't do. And then they told me to stop dreaming like a child." The dream collector closed her eyes. She knew this story. She heard it every night in different shapes. "They were wrong," she said softly. "You are allowed to keep a piece of child." She lifted the paper airplane with both hands. Careful, careful, careful. It was so fragile that if she breathed too hard, it might break into chalk dust and vanish. Her thumb ran along the crease of one wing, then the other. She smoothed the bent nose, and as she touched it, the paper remembered. The memory of the boy's small hands, patient and excited and full of belief, slid back into the dream like warm light returning to a room. The paper airplane shivered, then straightened. It grew brighter. She held it up, letting the invisible wind catch it. When she let go, it didn't fall. It rose. It circled her head once, twice, 3 times, trailing sparkles like morning sun on water. Somewhere, from very far away, from the waking world, she heard a sound. A laugh. A real laugh. A quiet, surprised, helpless laugh. The kind someone makes when they don't expect happiness anymore, and then feel it anyway. The boy was old now. She could tell. His laugh had a rough edge. He had forgotten, for so many years, that there was a time when he trusted his own hands to make impossible things fly. He would not remember this dream in the morning. He would wake, rub his eyes, sit up slowly, feel his back ache, and tell himself it was just another night. He would not remember throwing paper through a hallway sky. But maybe, when he reached for his coffee cup, his hand would feel a little steadier, Maybe for no clear reason, he would decide not to give up on something he had quietly been giving up on. Maybe he would try one more time. That was enough. The dream collector touched the air gently. The paper airplane dissolved into a small gold light and drifted down into her lantern. It joined the others, humming contentedly. "Safe now," she whispered. She stood again. The pull inside her chest was still there. It had gotten stronger. She let the dream around her fade. The cloud floor, the blue, the circling paper comets, it all began to thin, like smoke after a candle is blown out. She stepped through the place where the sky curled, and she was outside again, walking in the between space. That was when she noticed there was a crack in the dark. That should not be possible. The space between dreams is not like the world of waking. It does not break the same way. It stretches, it folds, it hides, it breathes. But it should not crack. Yet ahead of her, hanging in the distance, something looked torn, a thin line of pale, pale light, like a scratch across glass. The pull in her chest led straight toward it. Her breath caught. Her lantern light stirred uneasily. She almost turned away. Instead, she made herself walk. On her way, another dream brushed against her shoulder like a curtain and opened. Dreams do that sometimes. They invite you in. They say, "Please, if someone doesn't see me, I will disappear. Please, please remember me." She never ignored that voice, so she stepped through. The air shifted. Music, or almost music, drifted toward her. She stood in a ballroom, or if not a ballroom, then at least a memory of one. High glass windows circled the room, taller than houses, taller than trees. Moonlight spilled through them and painted the floor in silver patterns. Dust hung in the air like slow-falling snow. Chandeliers made of crystal and breath and memory glowed overhead, swaying without wind. The room was beautiful, except it was wrong in one way. It was silent. The dream collector could hear her own breath, and that was unusual. Normally, in a dream like this, there would be violins, a piano, a slow, steady rhythm under it all, a heartbeat you could dance to. Not here. Here, the air was so quiet it almost hurt. In the center of the ballroom, a girl in a pale dress was spinning. Her feet moved in soft turns, her arms curved, her back was straight, chin lifted. She knew the steps, she knew them perfectly, but she was dancing to nothing. The silence around her pressed in, and you could feel the loneliness in it like cold. The dream collector watched for a while. Then, very quietly, without thinking about why, she began to hum. It was not much at first, barely sound, just a note, then another. She followed the rhythm of the dancer's feet. Spin, step, turn, lift. The hum began to widen, like light moving through a doorway. It filled the air, just enough to be heard. The dancer froze, her eyes lifted, and for the briefest moment the dream collector saw her clearly. Dark hair swept back, strong shoulders, eyes that had cried and kept moving anyway. This was not a child. This was someone who had survived. "Can you hear it?" the dream collector whispered. The dancer nodded, slowly, once. The dream collector hummed louder. Not a song with words, just steady notes, warm and low and patient. the kind of sound a safe room would make if it could sing. The dancer began to move again, and this time the dance changed. Before, she had been repeating something she was taught. Now she was remembering something she loved. Her movements loosened, her hands softened, her steps filled with breath. She did not just turn, she reached. She did not just lift her arms, she opened them the way people open their arms when they are about to hold the person they miss most in the world. The dream collector felt her throat tighten. Sometimes sadness is heavy like stone. Sometimes sadness is light, like a hand pressed quietly to your chest. This was the second kind. She walked slowly around the edge of the room while she hummed. The chandeliers brightened, the air warmed. The windows no longer felt like glass, they felt like dawn. In one of those windows, she caught a reflection. She almost dropped her lantern, because for one heartbeat, only one, she could have sworn she saw herself. She had seen shadows of herself before, faint, fuzzy, half-formed like a face underwater. She always ignored them. She told herself gently but firmly that it didn't matter. What she had been didn't matter. What she was now was enough. She had work to do. But the reflection in the glass tonight was different. It was sharper. Her hair was the same, yes, soft, loose. Her face was almost the same, yes, pale, gentle, open. But her eyes were brighter. Her eyes looked alive. Alive. Alive in a way that made her feel suddenly, sharply, terribly empty. Her voice faltered. The music in the air wavered. The dancer stumbled and caught herself, blinking as if waking up from somewhere deep. "Thank you," the dancer whispered, and her voice echoed softly through the ballroom. "I thought I'd forgotten how." The dream collector swallowed. Her voice came out quieter than she meant it to. "You didn't forget. You were only waiting for someone to remind you." She touched the air. The dancer's dream folded in on itself, not breaking, not vanishing, just returning to the dancer's heart. A pale ribbon of light drifted away from the center of the room and floated down toward the lantern. The lantern opened, and the ribbon settled inside like a sigh. The dream collector was alone again. The ballroom dissolved. The chandeliers dimmed, the floor lifted like mist. The glass windows thinned and became only air. She was back in the between space, standing in the dark, with the crack of light still hanging ahead of her like a wound in the sky. Her hands shook. She had not shaken in a very long time. She almost did not want to keep walking. She almost wanted to run backwards, to lose herself in 1,000 safe, gentle dreams. A cup of tea that never spilled, a favorite blanket that still smelled like lavender, a cat that came back, purring, to the lap of the little girl who never stopped missing her. Those were easy dreams. Those were good dreams. She liked those dreams. They didn't hurt. But the pull in her chest was not letting her go anywhere else. "Go," it said. "Come find me," it said. "Please," it said. Her lantern hummed again, as if in agreement. The tiny lights inside stirred anxiously. She could feel them, all of them. The boy who wanted to fly, the dancer who thought she forgot her own music, the soft laugh of the old man who sat each night mending broken time, the mother whose lullaby had never been sung and waited in a bottle on a dark sea. They were all with her. They were always with her. She carried them. She took a slow breath, and then she walked toward the crack. When she reached it, everything changed. It was not a doorway. Dreams sometimes have doors, wooden doors, iron doors, doors made of stained glass or smoke or feathers. Those you can open and close, those behave. This was not that. This was a split in the world, a tear, the kind that doesn't ask permission. Light leaked from it, but not warm light, not golden dawn, not candlelight, not firelight. This light was pale, cold. It felt like the inside of a memory you almost remember but not quite. It felt like grief. She reached out, and the light moved toward her hand like water toward a shoreline. For a moment she saw shapes in it, a bed, a window, a hand holding another hand. But when she blinked, they disappeared. Her heartbeat was fast now. That scared her. She did not have a heart the way humans had one. Her heart was made of quiet places and stitched moonlight and old promises. It usually did not race. "Hello?" she whispered. Something on the other side whispered back, her own voice. "You shouldn't be here." She froze. The words weren't angry. They weren't cruel. They were worried, afraid. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Who are you?" Silence, then softer. "Don't open this." Her throat felt tight. "Why?" "Because if you open this, you'll remember." Her hands trembled around the lantern. She'd been doing this work for so long, so long, so long that she had stopped asking questions about herself, because asking led nowhere. She did not remember a beginning. She had no ending. She only had the in-between. People slept, and she came. People dreamed, and she cared for those dreams. People woke, and she vanished. That was enough, wasn't it? Her voice shook. "What will I remember?" The answer came like a breath. That you are not just the one who collects dreams. You are a dream. The world tilted. Her knees almost buckled. She wrapped her arms around herself and held on, the way small children hold themselves in the dark when no one else is there to hold them. The lantern lights fluttered wildly, panicking, buzzing against the sides like frightened bees. She pulled them close against her chest, like someone hiding treasure. "I don't want to forget anyone," she whispered. "If I remember me, will I lose you?" "No," her own voice whispered from the crack in the world. "You will lose you if you don't." The pale light flickered once, like a candle about to die, and then it began to fade. "Wait!" She reached forward on instinct, trying to hold the light in place, trying to keep it from closing, and the tearing line widened just a little, just enough, and in that split second, she fell. She did not fall down. She fell inward. For an instant, there was nothing. No sound, no light, no sense of movement. Only the feeling of being pulled through her own chest. Then all at once, everything hit her like rain. Memory. She was small. She was warm. She was wrapped in a blanket that smelled like sun-dried cotton and sleep. Someone hummed. The sound wasn't exactly a song, not exactly words. It was comfort in sound form. It was the kind of humming you only hear from someone who loves you so deeply that they do not even need music to tell you. They just let their love become music. Her eyes were heavy. She tried to keep them open because she didn't want to miss the voice. She was good. She could stay awake. She was strong. She wanted to see. She wanted to say, "Don't go. Stay. Stay with me, please." But she was so sleepy. "Close your eyes," a soft voice whispered above her. "It's all right, little moon. I'm here." Little moon. The words pierced through her like light through thin skin. Her breath caught. Her body. Her real body now. Not the memory of a baby in a blanket. Shook with something sharp and desperate. She heard that again, she thought dimly. She knew that. She knew little moon. She knew it like you know the shape of your own hand in the dark. She felt fingers brush her hair back from her forehead. The touch was gentle, careful, the way someone touches something they're afraid to break. "I love you," the voice whispered. "Sleep. I'll be here when you wake up." Warmth, drifting, silence, then a rush, a change in air, a cold that did not belong. The warmth was gone. The humming stopped. The blanket was still there, and the soft pillow, and the dark quiet of a night where only crickets dared make noise. But the voice was gone. The love was gone. The presence was gone. And she, the girl, the baby, the little moon, was alone. The memory shattered. She gasped and opened her eyes. She was back in the between space on her knees, clutching her lantern so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. Her breath came quickly and unevenly, like she had been running for a very long time. Her face was wet. She lifted her hand to her cheek without thinking and felt it. Tears. Her heart twisted. She knew what tears were. Of course she did. She had seen them in the dreams she visited. She had wiped them from the faces of sleeping children who cried in their sleep. She had gathered them like pearls from the eyes of grown men who told everyone they didn't cry anymore. She had watched other people's tears for longer than she could count, but she had never felt her own until now. What am I?" she whispered. The between space did not answer. The crack in the dark had closed. It was gone, as if it had never been there at all. Her lantern, pressed against her chest, hummed weakly. The lights inside had calmed. They pulsed in slow waves, as if trying to soothe her the way the soft voice in the memory had once soothed her. "I'm all right," she whispered to them, even though she wasn't sure she was. "I promise. I'll keep going. I'll keep you safe." Because this, at least, she understood. This was the one thing she had always understood, even without knowing why. Protect the dreams. Protect them. Save them. Carry them until they can go home. She stood up. She felt unsteady for a moment, like a candle flame in wind. Then her balance returned, slow but sure. She breathed in. She breathed out. Her tears dried where they were, leaving faint salt on her face. "Okay," she whispered to no one and to everyone. "Okay, I'll keep going." And she did. She walked deeper into the sleeping world than she had ever gone before. Past the safe dreams, the soft ones, the small ones. past the shallow memories of good days and the repeated worries of bad ones, past the circles where children ran in endless summer fields with bare feet and sticky fingers, past the familiar shapes of doorways, kitchens, classrooms, offices, backyards, past even the storm places where nightmares live and snarl and bare their teeth. She walked until the light changed. Most dreams have color, even the sad ones have color. Blue of regret, red of anger, gray of tiredness, yellow of the last warm hug, green of the park bench where two hands touched for the first time and stayed touching, shaking, hopeful. But where she was walking now had almost no color at all. The air here was pale and thin, the light felt stretched. The space hummed with something low and steady, the way air hums in a hospital room at night when machines keep count of a heartbeat. There were clocks here, thousands of them. They were scattered across a field of nothing, tall standing clocks with carved wood and glass doors, tiny silver pocket watches hanging from invisible hooks, delicate wristwatches with cracked faces. Children's clocks painted with cartoon suns and smiling moons. Some ticked too fast, some ticked too slow, some had stopped altogether. In the middle of them sat an old man. He was crouched over the insides of a clock, his fingers moving carefully among tiny gears. His shoulders were bent, his hair was thin, his eyes were kind. The dream collector knew him, not personally, not the way people in the waking world know each other, but she knew his feeling. She had felt him before nights and nights and nights ago, always in the same way, hunched over work that no one else seemed to notice, fixing something small and important, alone. She approached quietly. "Hello," she said. He didn't look up. He answered. "Hello, little star." No one had ever called her that. She swallowed. "What are you doing?" "What I always do," he said, and the quiet humor in his voice felt like a blanket. "Trying to fix the things that ran out of time." She sat across from him, folding her legs beneath her. Up close, she could see his hands. They shook a little. They were old hands, tired hands, but steady in a way tired hands learn to be. He picked up a gear no bigger than a freckle and fitted it into place with infinite patience. "I had a daughter," he said suddenly. The dream collector looked up. He still was not looking at her. His gaze stayed fixed on the inside of the broken clock. "She said to me once," he continued softly, "that time heals all things. People always say that, don't they? Time heals. Time will fix it. Give it time." He let out a quiet breath that was almost a laugh. "I don't think time heals. I think love does. Time just gives love enough room." Her throat ached. "I'm trying," the old man whispered, his voice shaking, "to give her a little more room." The dream collector reached out. Her fingers brushed the side of the broken clock. The metal beneath her touch felt cold at first. Then it warmed. She poured a little light into it, not much, just enough. The clock gave a soft clicking sound. Then slowly, it began to tick again, steady, calm, alive. The old man closed his eyes, his shoulders relaxed. "Thank you," he breathed. She swallowed. "Is this your dream?" "For now," he said. "Will you remember in the morning?" He smiled, but there was sadness in it. "Probably not. That's all right. I don't need to remember the dream. I only need to wake up and feel like I can keep going one more day. That will be enough." She nodded. He finally looked at her then, and something inside her chest tightened, because his gaze was gentle in a way she had not felt directed at her in a very, very long time. He did not look at her like she was a ghost passing through. He did not look through her the way most dreamers did. He looked at her as if she were real. "I know you," he said softly. Her breath caught. "No one knows me." "Ah," he said. "That's what they told you." Her lips parted. "Be careful," he whispered, his voice dropping lower. "Things are changing. The edge is thinning." She frowned. "The edge of what?" He shook his head. "I don't know. I only fix clocks. I don't fix the world." For a moment neither of them spoke. The clock between them ticked steadily, steady, steady, steady. The sound of a heartbeat that refused to quit. Then his face softened. "Will you do me a favor, little star?" She nodded. "Yes." "If you see her," he said. His voice cracked. He swallowed hard and tried again. "If you see my girl, tell her I never wanted to leave first. Tell her I tried to stay." Her vision blurred. "I will," she whispered. He smiled again, smaller this time, like someone setting down a weight. He faded. Dreams do that. They dissolve back into their dreamer like mist going back to the sea. The field of clocks began to dim around her, slow and gentle. As the old man vanished, a tiny warm light drifted from where he had been sitting. She cupped her hand under it. It felt steady, loyal. It hummed, not loud like a shout, but slow, like a promise. "I'll keep this safe," she whispered to it. The light nestled into her palm for a moment, as if memorizing her touch. Then it slipped into her lantern and joined the others. Silence. She stood alone in the pale, almost room with all the clocks, and for a moment all she could hear was the soft ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Her eyes closed. She let the silence sit. Then she breathed in again and started walking. The world around her shifted. The clocks faded. The pale light warmed little by little, until it became the soft blue glow of night on water. She was standing on the surface of an endless sea. The water was almost black, but not in a frightening way. It was a deep, calm kind of dark. The kind of dark a safe bedroom has when the curtains are closed and the hallway light has been turned off, but the door is still open, just a little. Each wave carried a whisper. Not words, not exactly, more like feelings. "I miss you. I'm sorry. Please be okay. Please stay. Please wake up. Please forgive me. Please remember me." She walked. Her feet didn't sink. Her steps sent ripples across the surface, and each ripple made that part of the water glow for a moment, lighting up like ink catching starlight. After a while, she saw it. A bottle. It floated toward her, bumping gently against her ankle. The glass was smooth and clear, and inside it was a folded piece of paper tied with a ribbon. She bent down and lifted it. The ribbon was frayed, as if someone had held it too tight and cried into it. Her throat felt tight again. She pulled the cork free as gently as she could, and, with fingers that trembled just a little, slipped the folded paper out. Her lantern glowed a little brighter, as if drawing closer to listen. She unfolded the paper. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't a message begging for anything. It was a lullaby. Just a few lines, simple, soft, the kind of song you hum against a tiny forehead while a small hand curls around your thumb, the kind of song you practice in your head for months before the baby is born, so that when they finally arrive and you finally get to hold them, the song is already ready. Except whoever wrote this lullaby never had the chance to sing it. The dream collector's voice shook as she read the melody written on the page. She tried to hum it, but at first her voice broke. She swallowed. She tried again. This time the sound came. It was beautiful. It wasn't perfect. No lullaby needs to be perfect. It just needs to be honest. The sea responded immediately. Waves around her began to glow, one by one, like lanterns placed gently on still water. The whispers in the water changed. They grew calmer. The desperate edge softened. The begging turned into holding. For the first time tonight, she cried without trying to stop it. Tears slid warm and quiet down her face and fell into the ocean. Where they touched, more light bloomed. "I'll keep it," she whispered, clutching the paper gently against her chest. "I'll keep your song safe, I promise. I'll find where it belongs and I'll return it. Please rest." The lullaby lifted from the page like a breath. It became a small, pale light, then a brighter light, then a steady glow. The light hovered in front of her for a moment, as if waiting to be sure. Then slowly it drifted into her lantern and settled there, and the humming inside the lantern changed. It softened. It became a quiet, rocking motion, back and forth, safe, safe, safe. The sea dimmed. The water beneath her feet went still. The world around her thinned and vanished like mist in sunlight. She was alone again in the between space. This time she did not move. She stood very still, lantern in both hands, eyes closed, breathing slow and uneven, and tried to understand what was happening to her. She had always been careful. She had always been calm. She had always been gentle, steady, constant. She had always been the one who soothed. That was her purpose. That was who she was. But tonight, her own heart would not be quiet. The crack, the memory, little moon, the feeling of being held, the warmth of someone promising, "I'm here." Her hands tightened around the lantern. "I was loved," she whispered to the dark, saying it hurt and healed at the same time. "I was loved. Someone loved me." Her voice broke. "I don't remember who. I don't remember their face. I don't remember their name. I don't remember mine. But I remember being loved." The space around her listened. That is the strange thing about the place between dreams. It is not alive in the way humans are alive, but it is also not empty. It hears, it remembers, it keeps secrets the way the ocean keeps secrets, close, deep, patient. And now the space seemed to lean toward her. She could feel something shifting, a tension, like the sky holding its breath, like the world waiting. "Why now?" she whispered. "Why tonight? Why am I remembering now?" Because something answered. The voice did not come from outside her. It came from inside the lantern. Her breath caught. Slowly, carefully, she lifted the lantern and peered into it. Usually the lights inside just floated, flickering and pulsing like tiny fireflies made of memory. But now the lights had begun to move. They weren't drifting randomly anymore. They were swirling, they were gathering, and in the center of that slow spiral was a small, steady, silver light she had never seen before. It pulsed once, then again. Then it spoke, in a voice that sounded like her own but younger, softer, less tired. "We were waiting for you to be ready." Her lips parted. Ready for what? Ready to come home. Her knees felt weak. "I don't have a home," she whispered, almost angry, suddenly, sharply, painfully angry in a way she wasn't used to feeling. "I only have this. I walk and I gather and I keep. That's all I do. That's all I am." "No," the light said gently. "That is what you do. It is not what you are." "I don't understand." "You will." The lights inside the lantern swirled faster now, not in panic but in purpose. The tiny gold of the boy's paper airplane, the soft silver blue of the dancer's music, the warm, steady amber of the old man's ticking clocks, the pale, rocking glow of the lullaby that never got sung. All of them began to circle one another, weaving threads of light between them. The threads stretched, crossed, and formed shapes. She stared. Her breath shook. The lights were building a doorway, but not like any doorway she had seen before. This one wasn't made of wood or stone or dream metal. It wasn't made of wish glass or memory smoke. It was made of them, of every dream she had ever saved, every tiny piece of love and hope and longing she had ever carried. All of them were leaning toward her, building her a way through. Her throat hurt. "You're making this for me?" she whispered. "For you," the light said softly. "For us. For all of us. We're all inside you now. You've carried us. Let us carry you back." "Back where?" "Home," the light whispered again. Her heartbeat pounded. Her hands were shaking so hard now that the lantern rattled softly. She couldn't seem to stop it. She was scared. She was so scared. She didn't even know of what. She just knew that something was about to change, and that after it changed, she would never be the same again. But beneath the fear was something else. Warmth, like a hand holding hers in the dark. She took a breath. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, take me." The lantern flared. Light burst outward, wrapping around her, through her, filling her. For a heartbeat, she felt like she was dissolving into warmth. She felt like she was coming apart in the gentlest way possible, as if someone was untying a knot that had been tied too tight for too long. Then the light cleared, and she was standing in a bedroom, a small one, human-sized, real. Her breath stopped. There was a bed in the corner with a worn blanket pulled up to the pillows. There was a window with thin curtains that had tiny embroidered moons stitched along the hem. There was a wooden chair next to the bed, and on the chair someone had left a book open, face down, like they meant to come back and didn't want to lose their place. Her lantern went quiet. All the lights inside it stilled, as if holding their breath with her. Her chest felt tight, too tight. Slowly, like someone moving under water, she stepped toward the chair. Her fingers trembled as she touched the book and lifted it. It was a storybook. Its pages were soft at the edges from being turned too many times. The ink had faded in some places. The cover had a little moon painted on it. Little Moon's First Night. Her hands shook so hard she almost dropped it. Little Moon. Her throat closed. Little Moon. Her knees gave out. She sat on the edge of the bed without meaning to, clutching the book to her chest so tightly she could barely breathe. "I know this place," she whispered, shaking. Memory crashed over her like waves, a warm lap beneath her, soft and safe, fingers combing gently through her hair, the sound of a voice reading, slow and patient and full of love, stopping every now and then to kiss the top of her head, the rhythm of a heartbeat under her ear, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of home. Her tears came hard and fast. "I lived here," she choked out. "I lived here. I lived. I was alive. I had. Her voice broke. "I had someone." The air in the room felt thick with love. It was old now, faded, dusted with time, but it was still here. It had soaked into the walls, into the blankets, into the floor. Love can do that. It can live in places long after the people are gone. She pressed her forehead against the storybook and tried to breathe through the ache tearing through her chest. "I had someone," she whispered again, softer now, wonder in her voice through the grief. "Someone loved me." "Yes," said a voice from the doorway. She jolted. Her head snapped up. Someone was standing there. Her heart, whatever it was inside her that acted as a heart, almost stopped. It was her. It was not her. It was older. Her face, her hair, her eyes. But different. Wiser. Warmer. With soft lines around the mouth from years of smiling through pain, and gentle shadows under the eyes from nights spent awake by someone else's bedside, humming and waiting for fever to break. She looked like someone who had lived. The dream collector stared, shaking. The woman in the doorway smiled. "Hello, little moon," she whispered. The dream collector couldn't speak. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The woman stepped closer. "I'm sorry," she said softly. I tried to keep you. I tried to hold you. I tried to keep you here with me. But you were so small. You were so tired. You slept and slept and slept, and you wouldn't wake up. And I—" Her voice broke. She swallowed and tried again. "I begged them to let me keep you. I begged the night to leave you with me. I begged the stars. I begged whoever was listening. I said, 'Please, please don't take her away. Take me instead. Let her stay. Let her grow. Let her run in the sun.'" Her hands were shaking now, too. "They didn't listen to me," she whispered. "But they listened to you." The dream collector finally found her voice. It came out small. "To me?" The woman nodded. "They said," she whispered, "that sometimes when a child's body can't stay, but her light is too bright to go out, the night will make a deal. It will send her where she can do the most good, where she can be a light for others, where she can carry love for people who are too tired to carry it themselves. They said you could walk where no one else could walk, that you could gather pieces for people who had lost them, that you could keep them safe, that you could carry them home." Her voice grew very soft. "They said you could become the dream collector." The dream collector's whole body trembled. "I died," she whispered. The woman's eyes filled. "Your body did," she said gently. "Your light didn't. And your—" The dream collector swallowed. Are you my mother?" The woman let out a tiny laugh that was almost a sob. "I always wanted to hear you say that," she whispered. The dream collector's breath shook. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then very slowly, the woman opened her arms. The dream collector moved before she even had time to think. She crossed the small distance in 2 steps and pressed herself forward, and when the woman's arms closed around her, something inside her cracked and healed at the same time. It didn't feel like hugging a dream. It didn't feel like touching a memory. It felt like holding. It felt like being held. Her face pressed against the woman's shoulder. The woman's hand came up, shaking, to cup the back of her head and pull her in, gently, protectively. The way you hold something you almost lost and can't bear to let go of again. "I missed you," the dream collector whispered into her shoulder, her voice shaking. "I never stopped missing you," her mother whispered back. They stayed like that a long time, breathing together. The dream collector closed her eyes and just existed. For the first time, and she didn't know how long, she wasn't moving, she wasn't gathering, she wasn't saving anyone. She didn't have to. She could just be. Her mother stroked her hair slowly, 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 like she was soothing a child to sleep. After a while, her mother spoke again, very softly. "Are you tired?" The dream collector laughed a little, weak and teary. "I don't sleep." Her mother smiled into her hair. "Everyone sleeps," she whispered. "Even dreams." The dream collector pulled back just enough to look up. "If I sleep," she whispered, fear flickering in her eyes, "will the world forget to dream? Who will pick up the fallen pieces? Who will keep them safe? What if they fade? What if they break? What if they disappear? And no one remembers?" Her mother touched her cheek, gentle. "Hush." Her voice was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that makes the whole room listen. "Honey," she whispered, "you've been holding everyone else's dreams for so long. You think no one will hold yours. But you're wrong. You've left light in so many people. You've left warmth in so many hearts. You've planted little pieces of courage and comfort and hope in so many sleeping souls. You think they don't remember you, but they do. Not with names, not with faces, but with feeling." She smiled softly. "In the morning, they wake up and they don't know why they can breathe again. They don't know why they suddenly feel like maybe they can try one more day. They don't know why a song they thought they forgot plays in their head while they make coffee. They don't know why, just for a moment, they feel held." Her eyes shone. "That's you," she whispered. "They carry you now, all of them. So if you rest, they will hold you. The way you held them, you won't be alone. You will never, ever be alone again." The dream collector's lip trembled. Something deep inside her, something knotted and tight and aching, finally let go. Her shoulders relaxed. Her breath slowed. "Will you stay?" she whispered, small again suddenly, like the little moon wrapped in blankets. Her mother's eyes filled. "There is nowhere else I would rather be." The dream collector nodded. She let herself lie down on the small bed, still clutching the old storybook in one hand and the lantern in the other. Her mother sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched, and pulled the blanket up over her the way she used to, smoothing it carefully, tucking it under her arms. The room felt soft, safe, real. Her lantern, resting against her chest, glowed warmly. The lights inside hummed a slow, gentle rhythm, like breathing. The swirl had calmed again. The silver light in the center pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Her eyes grew heavy. "Mom?" she whispered, the word sounding new and perfect in her mouth. Her mother brushed hair away from her forehead. "Yes, little moon. Will I still be the dream collector when I wake up?" Her mother smiled. "If you want to be," she whispered. The girl's brow furrowed sleepily. People still lose things in their dreams. They still need someone to carry them home. Her mother leaned down and kissed her forehead, slow and soft. "Then you'll still go," she whispered, "but you won't go alone anymore." The dream collector blinked up at her. "I won't?" Her mother shook her head. "No, because now you remember you're loved. You'll carry that with you. And love," she said quietly, "is a light that even the dark can't swallow." The dream collector's eyes finally closed. Her breathing slowed. Her mother stayed beside her, one hand resting lightly over the lantern, the other rubbing slow circles on her shoulder, and began to hum. It was the lullaby from the bottle, but no longer unsung, soft and low and warm and safe. The song drifted through the little room and out the open window. It slipped past the curtains, out into the night, and from the night into the between space, and from the between space into 1,000 sleeping minds. Far away, an old man sleeping in his chair stirred and smiled through tears he didn't remember choosing to cry. Across town, a woman who danced until her feet bled rolled over in her sleep and felt, for the first time in years, that she did not have to fight to deserve her own music. In a quiet house, an old boy with gray in his hair dreamed of paper airplanes, and in the morning his hands felt steady. In a hospital room, someone on the edge of giving up felt a small warmth in their chest and whispered, "One more day." "I can do one more day." The lullaby spread. It filled every corner the dream collector had ever walked. And for the first time, the dream collector slept. She did not fall apart. She did not fade. She did not disappear. She simply rested. She dreamed. And in her dream, she stood in a wide meadow lit by thousands of tiny floating lights. The air was soft. The grass brushed her ankles. The night sky above her curved like a safe blanket. One by one, shapes began to appear around her. A boy laughing as a paper airplane looped in perfect circles. A dancer spinning with her arms wide, eyes bright and alive. An old man holding a small silver pocket watch to his heart, smiling quietly. A woman standing barefoot in the ocean, singing her lullaby into the waves. They all came to her. They all stood in a loose circle around her. They were not fading. They were not breaking. They were whole. They were bright. They were real. She pressed a hand over her mouth, overwhelmed. "You brought our dreams back," they said, voices overlapping, warm and full. "Now let us keep yours." Her eyes filled. Light rose gently from the grass at her feet. It lifted toward her, not from her lantern this time, but from the ground itself, from the air itself, from the space around her. It wrapped around her shoulders like a cloak. It wove into her hair. It settled into her chest. It felt like belonging. It felt like home. Her breath trembled. "Thank you," she whispered. The lights pulsed. "Rest," they whispered back. And she did. Outside in the waking world, morning was still far away. Windows were still dark. Streets were still quiet. The night still held its breath. People slept, some peacefully, some restlessly, some with hands clenched in sheets, some with smiles softening their faces. But something had changed. For so long, the dream collector had walked alone, collecting, saving, carrying, always giving, never keeping. Now the dreams were holding her too. And somewhere, in that soft and endless night, a story settled into the world like a promise. Once upon a dream, when you thought you were alone, someone walked beside you and picked up the pieces you dropped when you were too tired to hold them. She kept them safe. She kept them warm. She carried them back to you. And when she finally fell asleep, the world, your world, kept her safe in return. The dream collector slept, and the world dreamed of her. And the dream did not end. It lengthened like a ribbon of light down a corridor with no walls, only a hush that welcomed footsteps, and a softness that remembered names. The girl slept, and in her sleeping she drifted, not away from the ones she had helped, but through them, through the glow she had left in their chests, the quiet she had taught their breath, the steadiness she had pressed into the tremble of their hands. In one house, the paper airplane boy, gray at his temples, stubborn in his bones, dreamed not of hallways this time, but of an open field after rain. He stood barefoot in the damp, the grass cool as forgiveness against his skin. He lifted his hands, and the air itself folded. It creased like attentive paper beneath a teacher's thumbs. He smiled without meaning to. He made not an airplane, but a flock, dozens, each fold a small decision to keep going. They rose, a soft white storm of simple belief, and above them, high and patient, a single gold glider traced a long arc that never seemed to end. The arc joined a second and a third, until the sky was a script of brightness no one could misread. Far away, the sleeping girl felt that curve pass through her chest like relief. She turned in her bed, the old blanket brushing her cheek, and the lantern beside her pulsed once, warm, approving, awake though she was not. Somewhere else, the dancer slept on a narrow couch, an ice pack forgotten by her ankle, a music stand leaning like a tired friend in the corner. Her dream did not dress itself as a ballroom. It came as a small, sunlit studio with scuffed floors and the smell of rosin. The metronome on the piano was broken in her waking life, stopped mid-tick months ago, but in the dream it started again, quietly, politely, as though clearing its throat. Tick, pause, tick, pause. A kind rhythm that matched the way a healed heart chooses not to rush. She lifted her arms and did not spin. She walked. She walked the room in slow eights, feeling the wood answer her weight, and when she finally rose to turn once, the turn felt like a decision she was allowed to love instead of a command she had to obey. In her sleep, she smiled the way children smile when they remember a face that will arrive at the door. The lantern by the girl's pillow answered with a second glow, silver this time, steady as moonlit water. Hours, what the waking world would call hours, unfurled. In the house of the old clock mender, the chair kept by the window creaked as his chest lifted and fell. He dreamed his hands were young again, not to erase the years, but to honor them. Each wrinkle on his knuckles became a river line, each river line a story, and every story a gear that fit. The room filled with a sound that was not quite ticking and not quite breathing, but a faithful braid of both. When he pressed the small silver watch to his heart, it did not count minutes. It counted patience. Patience for himself. Patience for a world that does not always move at the right speed. In sleep, he mouthed words to someone he could not name. "I'm still here. I'm still trying. I know you tried too." The lantern's amber thread brightened, and the girl's lips curved in the faintest echo of his smile. Beyond cities and their lit windows, beyond fields and the whispering fences that hold them, the sea unrolled its slow hymn. The mother of the unsung lullaby did not dream of hospitals or endings. She dreamed of a night market of small lamps, each lamp a memory of a child's breath, each breath a craftsperson shaping light with gentleness instead of fire. She walked the path between the lamps, not looking for anyone, not hurrying past anyone, pausing only when a wick flickered, as if uncertain it was allowed to shine. She cupped the glass with both hands and whispered the unremarkable miracle every child deserves. You are not a burden to be carried. You are a light to be learned by. The wick steadied. She moved on. Above her, the sky did not glitter. It listened. The lantern by the sleeping girl gave a low hum, like a rocking chair, back and forth, back and forth. The shape of rest in sound. All this gathered in the room where she slept. The mother at her side, 2 hands and a lifetime keeping watch. The book with the little moon on its cover. The open window letting night breathe in and out. The house remembered birthdays and rain at noon, and a kettle that whistled with more enthusiasm than it had water to justify, and the quiet panic of losses survived without being named. The house remembered. It held. The girl's dream deepened. She found herself again in the meadow of lights, but now the meadow had edges, distant, soft, like hills in fog. She walked toward them, unafraid. The lights bobbed as though nodding hello to her ankles. She smiled and said hello back, because every greeting matters to the thing that made it. At the foot of the first hill, she saw a gate not meant to keep anyone out, only to ask a question gently before they came in. A small, handwritten sign hung there on a ribbon. What do you carry that you no longer need to carry alone? The question made her laugh, though her eyes were wet before she knew it. She placed her hand over her lantern. I carry names, she answered. Names no one speaks aloud anymore. I carry promises that were never heard, apologies that never found mouths brave enough to say them. I carry songs that shook and hid and thought they were too small to be called songs. I carry things that still want to belong. The ribbon twitched as if satisfied. The gate opened by not being there. She crossed. The hill was not a hill. It was a gentle rising of memory. At its crest, a tree waited, not grand, not tall. A tree like the ones children draw when you ask them to draw a tree, a circle of leaves on a kind trunk and roots that curl like a sleeping cat under the soil. She laid her palm against its bark. "Will you keep a few for me?" she asked. The tree answered in chlorophyll and patience. "Of course." She leaned her forehead to it. Leaves whispered. Wind arrived without needing a direction to come from and tucked flyaway strands of her hair behind her ear the way a friend would. She unlatched the lantern. Lights rose, just a handful. Old promises, shy songs, tired names, and slipped into the leaves. The tree did not brighten. It breathed. That was all. Enough. When she turned, a path had written itself along the slope, inked by footsteps she had not yet taken. She followed. The path did not decide for her. It suggested. She suggested back, and together they made a line that curved like kindness around a stone someone else might have tripped on. At the bottom of the far side, a river went by with the unshowy determination of things that have always known where they are going. She stepped into it up to her calves and waited while the water read her without judging. The river tasted of snow melt and afternoons and someone's laughter years ago that hit the table and spilled a glass and made everyone laugh harder because the table had been thirsty. "Do you need to take anything?" she asked the current. "Only what you're done with," it answered. She cupped her hands and let the river drink a fear the size of a thorn and a guilt the size of a fist she had never unclenched because she thought it belonged to her. The river swallowed both and did not change color, because real forgiveness is clear. "Thank you," she whispered. The surface broke around her calves into 1,000 small agreements. Night in the waking world leaned toward midnight. Somewhere a nurse adjusted a blanket without waking the patient beneath it. Somewhere a cab driver turned down the radio because a passenger slept with their mouth open, and the driver remembered their own son doing that once on the way back from a late movie. Somewhere a porch light discovered it liked moths after all. The world kept doing the small, correct things that let dawn happen on time. The girl climbed the second hill. Here, no gate. Only a bench, old wood, smooth where generations of worrying hands had rubbed it into gentleness. A figure occupied the far end, leaving room for whoever needed room. When the girl sat, the figure did not look over right away. They watched the dark meadow the way you watch waves, respectfully. "I keep thinking my grief was a country whose language I had to learn or starve," the figure said. Their voice did not ask to be recognized. It asked to be rested beside. "And did you learn it?" the girl asked. "I learned how to listen to accents I wasn't born with. I learned to say I miss you in 10 ways that sounded nothing alike. I learned you can be fed by a language you will never speak fluently." They finally turned. It was the old man, younger, and also the dancer, older, and the paper airplane boy at an age he never wore in daylight, and the mother whose lullaby had been returned to her palm so gently she could hold it. It was the ones she'd helped, and the ones she hadn't found yet, and the ones who would teach her later what later can hold. It was everyone, and it was one person, because dreams love a useful paradox. "I didn't know where to bring my tired," the figure said. "I kept putting it on my back like a bag." "You can put it here," the girl said, touching the bench. "Here is for putting." They smiled the way you smile when you find out the library is open late. They set down a weight that made no sound. The bench did not creak. The wood remembered and grew stronger. They sat together, saying nothing true in words, everything true in company. When the figure rose, they left a folded handkerchief on the bench. It had been washed so many times its corners did not know how to be corners. Embroidered in a thread almost the color of the cloth were two initials no one had called them by in years. The girl touched the cloth and felt a small army of dinners cooked after long days, apologies offered in the language of making tea, forgiveness spelled with buttered toast. She tucked the handkerchief into the lantern, not to keep it from them, but to let it meet the others. "Go on," she told the figure. "The path will be friendly." They nodded, a bow respectful to both of them, and went down the hill light-footed in slippers that had never been light before. The meadow widened. The night above it opened not into darker dark, but into depth. Stars settled lower, as if sleeves had been rolled up for work. The girl walked, and everywhere she walked, the grass shifted shades, learning her name one blade at a time. She came to a little town no map would carry. Doors there had opinions, but polite ones. Windows listened to secrets, then forgot them on purpose. A baker shaped dough into moons and pulled them from the oven golden, their crusts sighing like content cats. She bought one with a coin that was only gratitude, and the baker accepted it at its true value, wrapping the moon in paper that remembered every hand it had ever warmed. She ate as she walked. The bread flaked into a trail. Small birds would consider and then leave undisturbed, because respect tastes better than crumbs. On the town's edge, a schoolyard waited, the chalk line of an old hopscotch grid glowing faintly where no child had hopped it in years. She toed the first square. The world obligingly counted for her, not numbers, but the names of things that teach balance, trust, kindness, boundaries, rest. She laughed aloud when she almost tripped on rest, because rest always looks smaller than it weighs. She steadied herself and hopped it cleanly the second time. Past the school, a garden, not manicured but tended. Stakes held up tomato vines with a patience that had nothing to prove. Beans taught themselves constellations along twine. At the far bed, a woman knelt, her pants gone to their knees with the honesty of work. She hummed without noticing. The song drifted, found the girl, matched a note the lantern had kept warm all this time, and for a moment the night itself sang harmony. The woman looked up, met the girl's eyes, did not startle, dreamers rarely do when the right person arrives, and nodded as if to say, "There you are." The girl knelt opposite and pressed her hands into soil that knew more than both of them, and for a while they gardened sleep together, pinching suckers, burying stems, faithing tomatoes into sweetness. And still the night had more room. She crossed a bridge, or rather, the bridge crossed the idea of a river, which is a stronger and more reliable thing than water sometimes. On the far side, a library door stood open. The librarian inside did not look up as the girl entered, because they were listening to a book that was reading itself to them. The book paused politely to welcome the new listener, then continued. Its pages were stories no one wrote down, and so never needed to be revised. Every paragraph ended in exactly enough. The girl stood in the aisle between grief, domestic, and joy, anonymous, holding her lantern at her side like a friend's hand, and the letter between two chapters loosened its shoulders and fell into place where it had wanted to be all along. In all these places, she did not heal the world. The world is not a broken bone to be set. It is a garden to learn, and a language to practice, and a neighborhood that remembers you better if you sweep your own steps. She simply reminded. She kept the company of each small courage until it recognized its own face again. She put her lantern down when both hands were needed. She picked it up when the path dimmed. She let the towns that needed morning find it without being hurried, and the meadows that needed night keep it without apology. Back in the little room, her breathing stayed easy. Her mother's hum rested sometimes and began again, not because the girl needed it, but because the mother liked the sound of love in the air. The lantern's light did not fade. It learned how to be a steady thing in a world of passing things. It learned how to wait without worrying. It learned that waiting is an action when you do it on purpose. At last, what the world would call at last, though dreams use other clocks, the girl's dream led her back toward the house the way a tide leads shells back toward shore. She stepped out of the library, and the road under her feet did not continue. It agreed with her that this was the right time to be home. She took one more breath of the town's warm, bready air, and one more look at the bench on the hill, where the initials in thread looked less lonely now, and she bowed to the tree that had agreed to hold a few names until they felt like leaves. Then she was at the window. Inside, the room was unchanged and new. The book with the little moon on its cover lay where her hand had slid from it, the page holding her place without complaint. Her mother slept at last, chin on chest, one hand still resting lightly over the lantern, as if keeping watch in sleep too. The girl stood a long moment and watched her mother breathe. Watching someone breathe is a way of saying, "I'm grateful you are here," without waking them to make them prove it. She went to the bed. She did not need to lie down. She had not truly stood up. Dream bodies and waking bodies shake hands at thresholds neither can describe. She simply arranged herself into the shape of rest again and lifted the lantern to her chest. "Thank you for waiting," she whispered to the lights inside. They answered with a contentment that reminded her of the seas rocking. "We like it here," they seemed to say. "We will always like it here." She smiled. "Morning will come," she told them. "People will forget most of what they dreamed and remember just enough to be braver than yesterday. They will lose pieces again. We will go. We will keep going." The lantern did not flare triumph or vow. It exhaled agreement. "And when I am tired," she said, eyes closing, "you will bring me home." The mother stirred as if she had heard a word she loved. Her hand shifted, not to hold tighter, but to rest more easily. The room let go of one more ounce of worry. The house adjusted its beams around a very small, very important weight. The weight of two beings who had found each other again after time did what time does, and love did what love does better. Outside somewhere, a bird made a single sound to test its morning. It considered, decided not yet, tucked its head back beneath its wing, and dreamed a little more. The sky softened at its edges, the way knees bend before dancing. The street did not yawn because streets are dignified, but it almost did. The girl slept on, and when morning finally arrived, gently on good terms with the night that had come before it, the first light through the embroidered moons on the curtain fell across her face. She woke not with a start, but with the deep "oh" of a body that has remembered a word it meant to speak. Her mother's eyes opened in the same second because some synchronies are old enough to ignore clocks. For a heartbeat they only looked at each other, and looking was a meal. "Good morning," the mother whispered. "Good morning," the girl answered, and the word morning meant again and still and we keep and we can. They did not discuss whether she would go out that night. They did not defend it or delay it. They ate the kind of breakfast that tastes like a day you can live, toast that stays warm to the middle, fruit that has decided to be sweet all the way through, tea that forgives you if you forget it for a minute, then come back. They washed the dishes unhurried, let them stand in their rack like a small city of clean roofs drying in sun, and the mother held the lantern while the girl tied her hair with a ribbon the color of dusk. When night returned, in good friendship with day, as it always does when neither tries to be the other, the girl stood at the threshold between the quiet room and the quieter place beyond. The lantern glowed ready. Her mother touched her cheek. No speech for courage was needed. Courage, having been remembered, preferred to work silently. The girl stepped through. She did not step away. She stepped along. And if that night you felt a breath of cool through your room that did not come from any open window, if your hand steadied for no reason you could explain, if a song you do not remember learning hummed your bones into kinder alignment, if you woke not with answers but with a willingness to ask gentler questions, then perhaps you crossed paths with her, or perhaps someone else did and carried the crossing to you like a pocketed stone. Perhaps the world dreamed of you too, and if later you lose a piece again, as everyone does, as everyone will, do not be afraid. Walk to your gate, the one with the ribbon and the question. Lay a hand to your small, ordinary tree. Let your river drink. Warm a bench by sitting where someone has already made room. Fold something simple and let it fly. Turn once, not because anyone asked you to, but because turning feels right in this room with this light. Bake a moon and share it. Weed a patch and eat the tomatoes like the sun left you a letter. Listen to a book that writes itself while you stand beside the shelf that holds joy, anonymous. And if a silver lantern glows in your periphery, don't turn too fast. Let it be a kindness beside you. Let it walk with you. Let it keep. Let it return. Because once upon a dream was not once. It is every night we agree to be gentler with the pieces we drop. It is every morning we agree to keep going even without all of them found. It is the long corridor with no walls and excellent echoes. It is a girl and her mother and a room that learned to hold two kinds of quiet. It is you. And when you sleep tonight, the meadow will be where you left it. The lamps will be lit. The river will remember the exact size of the fist you unclenched. The bench will be older and stronger for every grief set down upon it. The tree will keep names like leaves, keep summer. The town will smell faintly of bread, and if you listen, just as you fall, you might hear a voice that is not a command and not quite your own, saying simply, "I'll carry this with you. Rest.